now this is time so we talked about our open submission process, and we thought it would be nice for you to get a good sense of behind the scenes by inviting someone along who can tell you what it's like from the other side from working with us. So
An unbiased view.
We have not bribed her with anything. But please could you put your hands together and welcome Jannat Suleman to the stage. Woo! Hello, Jannat.
Hi everyone. Hi. It's nice sitting here again. It's quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, throwback.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having you guys talk through it, it's so nice to see how much work goes into it and how much thought. But yeah, can't wait to share all that with you guys.
Hopefully it wasn't a surprise that we did.
No, not at all, not at all.
So you were in this very room, though. You were saying
was.
it's nice to be back. This is where you did your panel.
Yeah, I was sitting right where Lilia was. It was a great experience. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Do you want to share with the audience what your panel was?
Yeah, mine was the Hijab in Hollywood. That's very kindly been referenced a few times. It was the first time I had ever done anything like this. So it was very cliche to say, but like cinephile dream come true to do it at the BFI for the first time. It was a panel about how the hijab was misrepresented, mischaracterized in Hollywood, on the screen, off the screen. So I actually opened the presentation with Anya Taylor-Joy in like a niqab on the June 2 red carpet, Julia Fox wearing a headscarf, things like that. I was joined by two great culture writers and critics, Fatima Sharif and Ayan Artan. And we sat here and we had a great laugh and a great joke about it. And Ruby, what you were saying about the kind of being serious and being intellectual at the same time, that kind of summarised the hour in a nutshell. But the origins of it were great because we were just talking earlier. We didn't know how it was going to start off. To begin with, we thought it was just going to be a talk, and when we're talking about the open submissions and how it's just an idea that you have to submit, that is pretty much what I did. I submitted an idea, and then we had a great chat about should it be a talk, should it be a panel, and that was a great experience. Yeah.
So how did the open submissions come to you? How did you hear about it?
I actually think it was through Lilia's Instagram story. I actually think it was that combined with another culture writer that I was following that was also platforming the fact that submissions open. I think a majority of us in this room who are probably, on the verge of wanting a career in film or something like that know that Instagram is one of those places where you find opportunities. And I think that was very true for this, especially because you have such great regular summit participants who are always platforming the stuff that you guys do. That was one of the main ways that I found out, A, that the summit existed, and B, that you had this change this year. And it was a really simple form, in comparison to the very vast applications that you usually have to do to get these kinds of opportunities. So I think, when I clicked that link and I was probably on a train to here, probably, and I clicked the link and I thought, there's literally only 4 questions and one of them is my name, that I can definitely do this, and you put a great, 150 word limit on it or something, which was actually quite hard. I did actually want more words in the end, but it was literally just an idea, and I think, what did I have to share in the end? It was just about the idea, a bit about me, and not really anything about experience or anything like that. So it was really nice to be credited just for what I wanted to do and not what I had done for a change. So yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, we wanted it to be as easy as possible and not be, tell us about your experience of this and your experience of that. And you're right, I think it was your name, your email address, the title and the idea, and then 150 words sort of
literally all it was. Yeah.
Summing it up. And you mentioned it briefly, but you basically sent it in as a topic. And I think you said could be a talk, could be a panel.
Yeah.
And then
wasn't sure.
Yeah, you met us, we sort of talked it through.
Mm-hmm.
How was it? I think we encouraged you to go for a panel because we thought it'd be interesting to have more voices in it.
Yeah.
How was that daunting to have to think about that and speakers and reaching out? How was that part of the process?
I think so. I think some of the stuff you were saying earlier about, some of your best ideas have been collaborative and your worst ones have been independent. I think when you don't have a career in the space or anything like that, your idea kind of feels like yours and you don't want to share it with anyone. And I quite openly, I think I probably felt like that when I submitted it, especially with it being such a key part of my identity. I used to wear the hijab for 15 years. So when we had that first Zoom call and, you presented it as, you know, having that panel could actually be very conducive to what this summit is meant to be. And, you know, it could be a really great opportunity for the audience to not just like it, but care about what you're talking about, instantly changed my mind. You know, I think looking back, I would have kind of hated to have done it as a talk. I think the panel was maybe the most fun aspect of it. And even, you know, in our very long email thread where we were discussing, you know, potential panelists and things like that, even the panelists that I had, you know, we're still really good friends, and that was the first time I'd ever met them, was here in this room. So yeah, I think it's just testament to the fact that ideas are way better when you have other people, for sure. Yeah.
And how did you find the sort of process of developing it with us? I mean, pretend we're not here. But, you know, how did you find, I guess, the sort of the relationship with us sort of inside the BFI, and putting the event together at each stage, as well as, you know, we're talking about how we bounce the program ideas around, but also there was the production element of it, and getting your slides together and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, it was very streamlined. I think you guys run a very tight and easy to follow ship, so that was really good. But I think it was really nice to have structure from the beginning. I remember, you know, you guys had a really nice timeline to follow, and it was very clear what the expectations were at every step of that timeline, you know. From the beginning, just having an idea, to, you know, softer questions like, consider who you would like to speak about this with, who is a good representative for the thing that you want to talk about. And, you know, when you're doing your slides, think about, I think someone at some point said, think about what you want people to see. And I think at the end it was, you know, for however long the panel was, it was just 7 slides of photos, and they were actually fantastically useful when you're stumbling on your words and you forget what's coming next, you know. So I think the production of the event was insightful, not just to figure out how this kind of thing works as someone who hadn't done it before, but it was nice to see how much more nuanced the idea could get when you stagger it like that, you know. Mm-hmm. So it was very slow, but also yeah, I learned so much from it. I think it was a great first experience. Yeah.
What would your advice be for anyone who's watching this, who might be considering developing an idea for the summit?
I think just make sure you're really passionate about it, and it's something that if you could speak about it now, you know, that's the level of passion. I think when I opened that form for the first time, I thought my first question, probably a silly question, was what would other people want to see me talk about? Because I really wanted to be selected, you know, I'm not shy about that. It was a great first opportunity and I wanted to be successful, but then I think I redrafted that 150 words like maybe 5 different times with different ideas, and at the end of it, it was just the one that I was talking about with my mates, you know, about Kim Kardashian's headscarf photo from like 5 Met Galas ago, you know. So, and I think as cliche as it is, because I've hated people saying this to me in the past, but as long as you care about it, I think the event will be really, really good, you know. I wasn't expecting to have it be as successful as it was. I'm very thankful for that. And I think it was all because, like you guys said, it was just an idea that it had a lot of passion behind it. So yeah, I think that, and also Instagram's really useful for finding out opportunities, which, you know, I think especially if you are someone that wants to go into the space, and I don't, you know, I'm only barely a year into this, I'm not established in this space yet at all, but this was a fantastic first stepping stone. And like you guys were saying about networking on the day, probably at least 90% of the people I know now in the space came from that day. You know, they've helped me find work elsewhere because, you know, networking is 100% how this works. I've helped other people find things, and it was just such a nice community, you know. So passion and community, that's what I would take away from it.
I love it. You've touched upon it a little bit about that this was the start of a journey for you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the successes that you've had since the summit, and what else kind of came out of the day for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to the summit, prior to even the application, I just had a little Substack, nothing special, you know, a little Instagram with like 300, 400 followers or something. And within the space of, from the summit onwards, I've written for Rabbit's Foot, I've written for Polyester, who were there on the day. I had never met them until that day. You know, I've written for Dazed. I just came back from Cannes, which is kind of insane to say, you know, things like that. And I think that it's all just from the people that I met. And there's a lot of, I'm not based in London, you know, I come from a working class family, things like that. film seemed like a silly job when I was growing up, and I didn't think, I mean, my day job as a teacher, I'm very open about that. This isn't my day job. I work full-time as an English teacher. And I think the successes have come from seeing that this is something that is plausible and can fit alongside whatever else you're doing, because sometimes career switches in this day and age can feel like I've got to drop everything and I've got to try something else. But opportunities like this are a great way to see if it's a good fit for you and to see if your ideas are, you can develop them, if that makes sense. I'm wary of rambling, but hopefully that makes sense.
No, it's all really good stuff.
Right.
You mentioned that, you know, on the day you got to network and you met Polyester and doors have opened beyond that. But what did you get a chance to go to other sessions? I feel like yours was like midday, so you
literally bang in the middle of the day. I
so
think, yeah.
Kind of the first morning's a bit of a write-off because you're thinking about
Yeah.
oh gosh, my own talk. But did you get to go to stuff in the afternoon, and what stuff did you enjoy?
I did. I was part of some of the people queuing to get into yours and Lilia's. Actually, I wasn't quick enough, so you know, there's no privilege here. I didn't get into those either. But
I try not to feel too rejected by that.
I think it was at the same time as mine.
Yeah, we were on the same time because I missed
time,
yours.
Yeah. But no, I did go to a few in the morning. I think what was on that? I went to the script supervisors one. I went to the New African Cinema one. You know, those people, you know, I met them for the first time, and now they're acquaintances. You know, we're aware of each other. So the day just went by really quick. You know,
Yeah,
it went by
happen.
really, really quick. I think if anything, you kind of get FOMO at the end of the day that you weren't part of that other really cool one that everyone was going to, you know, which is a really nice kind of FOMO to have, you know. But yeah, definitely feels like simultaneously like you're working, but simultaneously like you're just having a day at the BFI, you know. Yeah, it just goes by really quick.
Can I ask, because I said earlier there's always one that catches us by surprise that we're like, oh, I guess this is a hit.
Yeah.
And I think that was you this year. Like, you know, like everyone was at the Hijab in Hollywood. Brilliant, excellent news.
Yeah.
What did people come up to you after you'd finished the panel? What was the feedback that you got like from your audience?
Yeah, that was probably the most overwhelming part of the day, because I remember thinking that there was going to be like 3 rows of people, because they're obviously drop-in sessions. You don't know how many people are going to be there. And when we were sitting chatting and I saw, oh, there was more than 5 rows of people, it started to set in, you know. But it was really pleasantly overwhelming to have people that had careers in film see what I was doing and I suppose validate it in a way and come and say, you know, that was really good. I really enjoyed that. And then people come up and want to continue the conversation that I was having. That's kind of like dream come true, that, you know, not only have I gotten to speak about it on a stage, but someone wants to keep talking about that. That's like, you know, best thing ever. But I think general feedback, whether it was from you guys, whether it was from other people here or from the audience, was that it was just nice to see people talk about something they enjoyed talking about. And also we tried very hard to keep it funny and entertaining, not just, you know, Hollywood hates hijabi women, this is why it should change, you know, but it was very much, you know, taking the mick out of it a little bit and also trying to be a bit informative about it too. And I think people seem to really appreciate that balance. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much like the core of the feedback. Yeah, but yeah, it was a great day. Great panel. Yeah.
And are you taking the Hijab in Hollywood, the subject itself, is that going any further, or have you like actually that we've done that now?
Yeah, kind of, yes. I'm working on a piece at the moment for an American publication, which is about how the hijab has evolved on TV in the past 5 years, exclusively TV. So if you've seen Bodyguard on ITV, I'll be talking about that. The Boys, I'll be talking about that on Amazon Prime. I've been working on that for a few months. America works slower than the UK, so that'll be coming out soon. That'll be coming out soon. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, I'm always trying really hard to just talk about something different. You know, film programming is so daunting as a whole. Even just talking about film or writing about film is really daunting. And if there's one piece of advice that someone has given me, it's just that, just, is there something that people aren't talking about already? And we live in such a time of like digital overload, but there is always something that someone is not talking about that you really care about, and that's the best advice that I've been given and that I'm still trying to follow, you know. So yeah, look out for that.
That's really good advice, and also sums up the summit as well. We kind of add that, that's sort of the zeitgeisty thing is that what aren't people talking about that they could be talking about or will be talking about. Excellent. Well, you can also get in touch via open submissions or reaching out to us directly. In fact, we had a short film that came through. It's totally gone from my mind what it was called last year. The short film that we had with the Woman in the Wardrobe. Yes, that came through to us. That was a short film about women giving birth in war zones. It was a fictional narrative short feature, not a documentary. But that kind of came to us, and we've talked about shorts programs that get curated by other people, but that was one where that itself really benefited in having a space for a Q&A around it because of all the issues relating to women that came with that film, as well as them making the film themselves. It was an all-female crew. So it can be the same. You can come through our open submissions. As we said, we have hundreds of submissions, and we only took 10 forward this year. And I think perhaps the ones that are stronger are the sort of broader the topics. But if you've got a film that's got a real sort of female hook to it, then send it in.
I would think about, just to add to that, normally we show short films as part of a program with other shorts. So if you were submitting something as a standalone, think about it as what the event would be, rather than just, I have this film that I love and I want to get it in front of audiences. We'll be thinking about it, okay, but how do we position that in the summit? So if it has...
What's the conversation
around it? Who would you want on stage talking? Like we had a war reporters panel this year, and if you had a film that had filmmakers who have that really interesting life, maybe you'd have them in and show one of their films, that kind of thing.
But I mean, if you're a filmmaker yourself and you have a short film, and we'll get to it. We've got an email address. You can, if you want to send a screener link over to us and kind of put it on our radar. As we say, we sort of curate these short film programs. So if it's better suited to kind of a program, it's great to kind of know what's out there, and kind of keep it in the back of our mind if it's not something that sort of can be eventized.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I found that really really great and interesting to listen to, and especially hearing about it in for Black debutantes as well. As like I was coming to this season and I was missing this space to discuss, and I think that we should be providing those spaces. We are the sort of classic cultural organisation being limited in capacity and resource, but we are trying to create more of those spaces in our regular program for those topics which require discussion, and especially at the summit we do have the sort of, we've said they were networking drinks, but we have had basically, the drinks at the end of the day, which is like, come and talk about some of the topics that you've been discussing. And I think we've perhaps oversold the funness today. We're really keen that people are like, come along, it's fun. But like I said, the fun is there to balance out the serious discussion. And we do have serious discussions. We have had sort of panels on activism. As Ruby mentioned, we had a panel on consent on screen, which was very, very good, but was quite heavy, and that was definitely something where people felt that they wanted to discuss the sort of things that came up afterwards. So I'm hearing a call for more discussion spaces at the BFI, which I think is good, is something that we're going to take on board. But equally similar to the last answer, with our open submissions, even if you don't want to necessarily do a thing yourself or organise a thing yourself, I mean, sounds like just from, how you set yourself up that you've actually got a lot of experience in this area. So if you want to get in touch and say, depending on the topics that you have in the summit next year, I think it's really important that you have these facilitated discussion spaces. That idea is in the pot then, and we can take it forward, and you might be the person that we should be taking it forward with. So I thank you for your question and your comment. I think it's really good to hear.
So it's a suggestion that we've had in the past, and the restriction is a really boring one. It's budget, because we have to pay Maha and whoever it is that comes to film. But we've had it enough times now that I think that we should start actually at least filming one of the spaces for next year, potentially.
Yeah. We managed to do it in the past. I guess the boring, less sexy thing to talk about is how things are funded around here and the sort of budget allocation. But we know there's demand and are grateful for people for reminding us that there's demand, because this gives us good
Helps
fuel.
us secure the budget.
This gives us good fuel to say, actually, it's really important that we're filming some of these events and putting them online and sharing them, especially press tours. I'd say, depending on your topic, it might not necessarily be your responsibility to think about that. Again, I'm like, oh, we've really oversold the fun today, because we've had, some of the talks that we had, last year, including one of the ones we had up on the screen, the echoes from the margins, the marginalized community, sort of filmmaking in China. That was academic and very serious talk. So I don't think you should be put off and think, oh God, is this light enough or fun enough for the Woman with a Movie Camera Summit? However, on the other hand, if you are doing a talk about something that you feel like you can give a sort of light spin on it, which I've done one in the past when I did the sort of female waif trope, the Sally Rooney trope. We had a really good sort of fun talk last year on the Arab female filmmakers as well, and I think it's thinking about how, when you're doing it, how are you going to bring the audience into the tone of the piece? And it's always within the first few minutes. It's sort of landing, a little joke, a little sort of jab, a little like, well, this is going to be the tone of the discussion. But even with that, you're sort of using that as a little cocoon to get your thoughts and your points across. Doing the sort of poor waif girl talk was fun to say, oh, look at, sort of Sally Rooney and Twilight and all these like waify sort of heroines. But it was also, as part of that talk, I drew a line directly to troubling trends on social media around eating disorders and anorexia and how, film and culture is feeding into our society all the time. So I think it's thinking about how to set the tone and bring people on that journey with you, and using humour and fun to explore some of your more sort of serious ideas. But yes, ultimately, like I said, don't think that the summit is all just jokes and banter. There's a lot of jokes.
Yeah. If I can also give some practical advice for if you're filling out that form, you will, as part of, if you were to be successful in your submission, you would have to write the copy for your event, and it would go and become public, and it would be what people read to sell them on your event. I recommend writing a draft of that copy and showing it to your friends and saying, like, would you come to this? Because they will say, oh, I might, but it sounds a bit like it's a bit too intellectual, or I might, but it sounds like it's not taking the topic seriously enough. Like, people will help you, and even you yourself, if you can take a step back, sleep on it, come back to the copy and read it and say, actually, it's not quite the right tone, as Kim says.
Do you have some advice on this?
I was going to say I did that exact same thing.
There we go.
I showed it to...
She's such a good guest.
She told me to say that. I'm joking. I showed it to such a random selection of people, like my mum, my boyfriend, my brother, who doesn't care about films. Such a wide variety of people, just to see what they thought about what the event sounded like, and also what you're saying there about like opening with humor and opening with a joke. You guys gave me that advice, and that's the only reason that I started it like that, because having never done it before, it's daunting to talk about such a big topic when nobody knows who you are and you're not like an expert on the subject. I don't even wear a hijab anymore when I was talking about the hijab. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But that's, I think, why this process is so amazing, because questions like that is literally what you three are here for, and why that process is so successful, because you just ask and they just told me, and then I did that and it was great. So yeah, I think also just from a guest perspective, yes, the summit is really fun, but even in within my panel, yes, I was talking about how something more lighthearted about fashion, but then also 20 minutes later we were talking about how overplayed the female terrorist trope is, you know what I mean? And I think that's just testament to the fact that audiences know how easy it is to make light of these things, but they're also sitting in those chairs because they care about it as much as you do. But it sounds like there might be some ideas you're already thinking of, and you're thinking, oh, is that okay for this space? 90% of ideas probably can be, you know? But yeah, just my take on that.
Yeah, I think intellectual yet accessible is
Great way to put it. Yeah.
the thing. You got to remember there's going to be people from all walks of life in that auditorium, and you want everyone to get something out of it, whether they're an academic or they just love the movies, you know? So yeah, it's about kind of being able to get through to everyone. Just to say, these are the key dates to keep an eye on if you're wanting to submit us a proposal. January next year is the next edition of Summit, and you can contact us on this email address here, and we will respond to you in due course.